everyone. Before we get rolling today, we want to let you guys know about a little project we have going on with Studer Community Institute. On March 27th, Podcasts and Pints will be rolling out at 5:30 p.m. It'll be a nice little soiree of live audience podcasts, so stay tuned on our social media for some upcoming news on that. So today, our guest is Adron Chambers. He's born and raised in Pensacola, Florida, and he actually went to Pensacola High School. He's a former Major League Baseball player, and crazily, he won the 2011 World Series with the St. Louis Cardinals. Adron, how are you doing today?
Man, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Man,
That was a handful to say. Ooh.
Oh man,
Jeez.
Struggle with some of that one.
Yeah.
that was a short intro too, man.
Yeah, I
so
know.
much more to that.
I know. So how about you give the listener a little background on yourself?
Well, born and raised, like you said, Pensacola, Florida. Brother of a lot of brothers and sisters. Big family, very involved in the community. My grandfather was, my uncle was the first black fire chief in Pensacola. My aunt was the first black nurse in Pensacola.
And
And that's just a little bit of the history, to add on, when it comes to, me in Pensacola. But, Pensacola High School, quarterback, always been an athlete. A lot of friends, a lot of people I know in the city. So things like this excite me. I really appreciate y'all having me. And, let's have a good show today.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned Pensacola High, and then we went to Pensacola State,
Right.
and then Mississippi State.
No, I went to Mississippi State first. I had a full scholarship to Mississippi State. I tore my ACL.
Okay.
And I tell any athlete too, I go ahead and add this little part, man. I'm telling you, when you stretching is very important. You would know that.
Right.
But those injuries does a lot to your mind, So after Mississippi State, I got in a little bit of trouble, and I transferred over to Pensacola Junior College at the time, and that's where my baseball career kind of took off. But my first love actually was baseball, But Mississippi State was first. Stayed there for 2 years, and then I, came over to Pensacola Junior College, and I didn't necessarily know what I was getting myself into, but a few years later, I've become a world champion.
There we go. All right. So right off the bat, there you have. You said your first passion was baseball.
Yeah.
But you excelled more in football.
It was more so like my mother didn't want me to play football.
Okay.
All that banging and
Yeah.
slamming. I probably
Yeah.
had 35 concussions, in Little League. But over there at Myrtle Grove, baseball was like, actually my baseball career started in Warrenton. My uncle, the fire chief that I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
he was the president of the park. So as a left-handed thrower and hitter, he was like, come and try some baseball.
Southpaw.
Yeah, man, and I loved it. My brother played. We were always at the ballpark, and baseball was just, it was something that I was very familiar with. Baseball, football, I didn't really care about. I didn't know anything about until Coach Mike Hall, my Little League coach. He asked my mom, could I come play?
Mm-hmm.
I started off as a center. Yeah, exactly. I'm the fastest center you ever knew.
Right. Yeah.
Guard, tackle, tight end, then I moved to, running back, and then finally I ended up at quarterback, and that's why I played quarterback at PHS.
So
Yeah.
before we got rolling today, you were talking about how you love Pensacola.
Yeah.
You love being an ambassador of Pensacola.
P. Cole in the house.
Yeah. So what does being from Pensacola mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. It means, Emmitt Smith, Derrick Brooks, Reggie Evans, Fred Robbins, and those just a few of the names that I grew up.
Big time names.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I grew
Yeah.
up around, recognizing. My uncle is actually Roy Jones' trainer, Uncle Lem. But Pensacola is like one of those. Whenever I tell you, whenever I travel to these cities and I play, and I say Pensacola, I don't know whether it's because of Roy Jones with the Pensacola in the house, you know what I'm saying? He always used to say that after his fights. But people always knew where it was. They didn't know, how big it was or what was in Pensacola. So Pensacola always had that niche for, breeding phenomenal, people, whether it was athletes, whether it was, you got Mr. Levins, one of the best lawyers around here, recognized. And on top of that, like I was saying earlier, it's a lot of these new movies out that has people from Pensacola. Pensacola has some type of tie in the movie, being in the South, Pensacola being the first city too. So after you kind of learn the history, and then you see where you kind of fall in, like I said, with my family, I just fell in love with my hometown. I could have been anywhere in the world right now, and I chose Pensacola. And then, like my man said, with the growth that you see in our city, it ain't no better place to be right now.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take it back to baseball.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who are not into baseball, before you make it to the MLB, you're in, the farm system, the minor leagues. When you were, going up into the MLB professional, what were some of the first failures you had, and how did you overcome them? Could be baseball related, could be mindset related, somewhere in that realm.
Well, the first, was that what happened in Mississippi State, just if I could open up a little bit, my closet, I pulled my penis out on a girl, right? And they didn't like that too much.
Yeah.
It wasn't no kind of, rape charge, anything like that. It was just an indecent exposure kind of incident. But for me, that was a big changing point in my life because, when I was in high school, my high school football team was one of the most known teams around here. We were very, very good, very talented. That was when Hurricane Ivan and all that stuff too.
Right.
But we were very known in the community. So people knew me, as a quarterback, as a guy going to the SEC to go play football. I was recognized in my community, and after that, a lot of people kind of, put me down, as in, not saying that they had to hold me up to a standard, but, a lot of people that I thought that I could rely on or go to, I didn't have those people in my corner. And I still remember one day I had to take my mother to the doctor for a checkup, and I sat in the car and waited. And this was during that time where I was like trying to figure out, how am I gonna get back in school? What was my life gonna happen? What was gonna happen in my life? And I cried in the car. I cried. She don't even know this. I wiped my tears before she got in the car, but I cried so hard, and it was like something, coming over me saying, some people, call him God or, the universe. I feel like that spirit, that power was telling me, you have to get through this, and it's a way, but crying ain't gonna be the answer all the time. You can't cry the whole time, and that was really an emotional state for me because, growing up without a father, crying wasn't even in the category. There wasn't no crying in baseball. There ain't no crying in football.
Right.
You gotta
100%.
You gotta be a man,
Yeah.
So that was one of the first and really the really staple of understanding how to get over a situation in your life that ain't necessarily going the way you go, and being in front of the ESPN, in front of the papers, not scoring a winning touchdown, but possibly going to jail. It was a big changing point in my life, and you talking about overcoming something. That's something that I never be able to forget. I still remember Sylvester Croom, Mississippi State. He was my head coach, and he said, this is just a chapter in your book. And then I didn't understand what that meant, and how important those words were. This is just a chapter. We all have chapters,
Right.
and it's about how you write your chapter. So that was one, and I can name another one too. Because of that situation, when I went to go trial for the Cardinals, I was the most athletic guy, one of the most athletic guys. I was very fast and, talented in the game of baseball. But when you get drafted in the 38th round, the first round is kind of, they get first dibs.
Right.
So I didn't understand that at first. I'm looking I know I'm way better than this outfielder. You know,
Yeah.
what the hell is he doing in front of me? If I can cuss, excuse me.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't tell you that beforehand, but yeah, it's an explicit podcast.
No
You're good.
doubt.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't understand that part because in football, you know, more likely the best guys
Talent shows.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The guys gonna play. In baseball, it ain't necessarily like that. You gotta wait your opportunity, your time. You know, you got guys that in the baseball field, it ain't like going and throw a pass and you don't have the arm.
Right.
Get the quarterback in. In
Yeah.
baseball, you have to at bat. He got to get another at bat. You know, he might have a bad game. Okay, they're gonna give him another game to kind of see. You know.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. So, and a lot of times you don't see that from the outside. As a player, we have to witness this all the time. That adversity of waiting your time, being patient, picking a good pitch. To me, that's life. You know what I mean? You have to be prepared for every pitch, even if you don't swing. You know what I mean? That curveball in the dirt is very, very important. You know what I mean? It's important for that next pitch. If you swing at that shit,
Yeah.
you ain't gonna be. Your mind is that pitch right there that
Still
you
in
swung
that
that bat.
pitch,
Exactly.
yeah.
It ain't on the next one that could be the one you need. So that was another little obstacle. There's many of them. You know what I mean? There's many of them. I can go on and on about adversities, but those are a few of the things that I write about and I talk about all the time because as young upcoming athlete that I go to Pensacola High School and I go around and talk to these little leaguers, a lot of times they think it's a personal because I'm not making every shot or because they don't look at it as being something outside of, maybe something that's going on in your home or something going on in your community that's affecting you too. So those were kind of things that outside of the game, which I knew I could play, those were some things that I had to learn to get over.
Kind of taking that curveball in the dirt kind of thing, going from there. So let's talk about you taking your mom to the doctors. You're in the car, you're kind of at that low. You go left, you go right. You have to continue to sit there, in pain and your tears, or you man up, you do what you need to do, and you progress in life. What were those first couple steps that you took to, okay, this is what I need to do, PJC at the time? I mean, it will always be PJC, but PJC, baseball, and then go from there. What were those?
That's a great question too, man, because everything, is about, the process, you know what I mean? Taking each step and paying attention to each step. Well, the first thing I had to do was obviously wipe my tears from my eyes, but then, I had to, kind of show, because for PJC, they came to my house and they asked me, look, do you want to play?
Okay.
Well, they obviously want to see my character too.
Right.
Who is this guy? You know what I mean? So I immediately, when I returned home from Mississippi State, I got back in the gym.
Okay.
And this is why I love when you asked me to come and do the show. I was excited, you know what I mean? But not just because of being on the show, but because we have so many things that we can relate. When you work out, when you move the body, man, that does something to your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the people that I follow when it comes to yoga. They like to say, when you have a tense body, your mind is tense too. Your body is stressed, your mind is stressed. And I really believe that, getting up, and this is not with coaches, this is not with trainers, this was just me. I would go to my high school, I would train, I would go hit baseballs, I would go run, I would go to the gym and I would work out.
Right.
These type of things were like the first steps, it was like a personal type of pick me up, it wasn't like I had to go to, which counselors are very necessary, don't get me wrong, it's good to have a therapist, but I had to look within myself and figure out what the hell I wanted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to play football, it's a lot of work you got to do, you know what I mean? Because at the beginning, football, I was like, I got kicked out of football, I'm going to go back and play because I need to prove to these people that I'm not that person that y'all say I am. It was just a dumb mistake. But, saying it and doing something about it is completely different, you know what I mean? So I had to get off my butt, you know what I mean? And at the same time, that's when I started, because like I said, I tore my ACL, so I wasn't the same player that I was.
Right.
I didn't understand that part either. I got the doctor telling me, Dr. Sellers, which did a phenomenal job with my leg, he telling me, oh, you're gonna be even better.
Right.
I'm like, even better? I got so much pain in my body right now, ain't no better, you know what I mean? I'm not looking, I'm at a year of healing. You know, now I feel a lot different than that first year, but I didn't understand what that meant. What, you know, I'm gonna be better, man. You just did surgery on my leg. I got a cadaver graft, somebody else's ligaments, parts in my body. I'm like, what is going on? So all this is still going through my head at the same time of me having to pick myself up. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. You know, getting back in the gym, and like I said, that mental type of. I started reading more books. You know what I mean? So that the mental aspect of it, having to get over, like almost face the things that were in front of me. So, you know, that situation that happened at Mississippi State, I had an ACL tear. I had to look, so I had to break things down to how I was gonna get back. You know what I mean? And those were the first steps. You know what I mean? I had to, work my body out. Then I had to learn that I had to work my mind out too.
Right.
Yeah.
So once you made it to the big leagues, you're up there, you're playing with the Cardinals, you're playing with guys like Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
Saw that picture on your Instagram, you giving him a high five, absolutely crazy. What were some of the things that you did, both mentally and physically, to help you stay on the top of your game?
Man, y'all got some good questions today. Check this out, I'll tell you one good story. And I ain't the best storyteller, but the one that I have are like crazy, you know what I mean? Like, I remember, when they asked me to come for a trial in Memphis, Tennessee, right? Again, I wasn't really familiar with it. Atlanta Braves is my favorite team. David Justice, that's my guy. You know what I mean? But, Kenny Lofton. But, you know what I mean? It was like, I didn't know minor leagues, draft
picks. You didn't know the process.
Yeah, I didn't know all this.
Right,
so I go to Memphis, Tennessee for this trial, and they have a big red bird in the clock in Memphis. I'm like, shit, this is where the Cardinals play. You know what I mean? I'm thinking this is St. Louis, this is the big league field.
Yeah.
So I get there, and, I had my trial, I did real well, you know what I mean? Even though I was late, I took a bus, 24 hours. I had to go all the way down to Naples and come all the way back up to Tennessee, you know what I mean? So I was late, I got off the bus, they asked me to run a 60. I ran like a 6'3", 6'4", something like that. They gave me 3 pitches because they were almost done. They gave me 3 pitches. I hit 2 to the shortstop. They said, well, can you hit a home run? I hit one over the fence. They pulled me up to
on command,
just like that. 3 pitches. They brought me up to the top. They said, we're gonna give you $50,000 right now. Take it or leave it. I was like, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the world is that? But it was crazy because again, I wasn't familiar with the game. You know what I mean? I didn't understand the whole process of minor leagues, major leagues, and
working your way up.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So, man, I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. But it's really damn. What were we talking about again?
You were about to tell a story.
Right. I said it wasn't a good story, but what was the question again? Just make sure, because I'm
staying on top of your game.
Yeah. So it was like, I was trying to combine 2 stories together. When I finally signed with the Cardinals, the first day I showed up at Jupiter, Florida, is where we had spring training.
Okay.
So I show up to Jupiter, and I go to the big league locker room. The complex is like, it's a big complex where you have the major leaguers over here, the minor leagues over here. You have to go around the major leagues to go to the minor league complex. I'm thinking, again, that's where I was going with this. I'm thinking I was a part of the big league team, right? I'm thinking I go in the big league locker room, put my stuff down. I'm one of the first ones in there. I'm trying to be on time. Well, in football, I did a lot of cold tub, a lot of hot tub before practice.
Okay.
So, I take off my clothes. I brought me some stuff to train in. Again, I don't know the process, so I brought my own stuff, put my clothes on. I'm going to the training room to get in the cold tub, the hot tub, to kind of get ready for practice. Again, and the major leaguers showed up before the minor leaguers. I go get in the hot tub butt naked. take off all my clothes, get in the hot tub. Albert Pujols comes in the hot tub and he looks at me like, who the hell
Who
is
is
you?
this
You know what I'm
guy?
saying? What you doing there, right? He doesn't say nothing to me. I'm in there. What's up, Albert? How you doing, man? He don't say nothing to me. He leaves out. I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he just having a bad day or something. He ain't never met me before. So I get out, put my towel on, go back in the locker room, and everybody is there now. Like all of the major leaguers are in the locker room. They all looking at me. And I'm over here like, shit, what did I do? You know what I mean?
Right.
John Jay, who was also
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
team at the time, he was looking at me and kind of whispered in my ear and said, hey, I think you're in the wrong spot. You know what I mean? I think you're supposed to be in the minor league. Albert Pujols then came back and told the whole damn locker room that I was butt naked. Man, listen, they had pictures, they had everybody in the whole
That's
complex.
awesome. Yeah.
Hundreds of people knew that I was in
That
there.
you were the
butt
guy.
You
naked.
fucked up.
Oh my God, I fucked up. Exactly. You know what I mean? So
That's
it was
good.
like little things like that, you know what I mean? Not only did it, you know, help me as a player learn
Right.
where I need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also gave me, it kind of took a monkey off my back, you know what I mean? It was like
Yeah.
that insecurity, or, you know, I didn't have confidence or something like that, because they kind of knew me and I fucked up already. Like, how else can you mess up? You can't mess up no worse than that, you know, going in the wrong locker room. It was kind of like, those were kind of like the processes of me, like, developing me into the player that I became. But, you know, it was, man, I would go into the to the batting cages, and I'd be the first one there again. You know, I was always trying to
Right.
outperform everybody. And this was the time for the major leaguers, and Mark McGwire was in there, Albert Pujols, Rick Ankiel, Troy Gloss,
Yeah.
all these guys in the cage. They come in the cage and they like, get out. I'm like, shit, I want to hit too. Why are you telling me to get out? This is our time. Well, the next morning I did the same thing. I did that for about 3 weeks, and finally they were like, all right, man, you ain't gonna stop. You can hit with us. So things like that, you know, it kind of showed them that I really wanted to be there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for
So,
sure.
and those are the little stories, like I said, that, you know, a lot of people on the outside don't see, you know, and what it takes. But yeah, man, I got many of them crazy stories like that, man. Yeah. But I kind of lost my train.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Listen, I'm writing a book right now, and it's like so many stories, man. I'm hoping y'all ask the right questions so these things can come up, but it's like so many stories, and I'm trying to tie all this shit together, man. But you talking about that game, that baseball is so much different than it get discredited.
Right.
Like people saying now, like the game is being lost and all that. The game ain't going nowhere. It's just that people aren't willing to learn the real game of baseball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a real technique to this stuff.
It's a science.
It's a real science, and people don't want to, you know, get out there and learn it.
Yeah. So I guess going back to my original question of, you know, preparing yourself mentally.
Yeah.
Was there a different outlook on, you know, a World Series game where it's, you know, you're at the World Series, you've made it there, you can't go much further than that. Was there a different way that you mentally prepared yourself for a game like that, or was every game the same?
It was the same. You know what I mean? We that's how you had to approach it. I tell you, we went back to the World Series in 2013, but in 2012 we lost to the Giants. We were up on the Giants 3-1, and they came back and beat us in the series. But it was crazy because, you know, that year we won it. I promise you, we entered into the locker room, we practiced, we left the locker room the same way every single day. You know what I mean? We grew a family, but it wasn't like we were expecting Albert Pujols to do more, or we were expecting Tony to be a better coach. We really approached it the same way, just like we did in the regular season. Well, in 2012, it was a little different. You know what I mean? We kind of, it almost felt like we were the champs last year.
Mm-hmm.
We deserved this spot. We supposed to, because we good and we won last year. This is what we supposed to have. And we got our butts whooped by the Giants. You know, when they came, we were up, you know.
Yeah.
We won in the series and they came back. So it was like, it was an eye-opener. So for that question, it was like, we had to learn. That's why I feel like we made it back in 13. We understood that it is an everyday occurrence. It ain't no, you can turn the switch on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant,
Right.
rest in peace. like, even though they might have scored, 81 points this game, the next game they scored 15. I feel like that switch was always on though. You know what I mean? And to be a real champion, you can't just flip it off and flip it on. You have to. You got to take the good and the bad too. So I feel like, and that was a great question too. Again, another great question. But it's like, as athletes, we do that sometimes. We try to turn the switch off and kind of, you know what I'm saying? We take things for granted. You know what I mean? I went 4 for 4 yesterday. I ain't got to worry about it. My average good, and then you come up and you have 4 Ks the next game, and it's like, damn.
Then your average is looking
right.
a little different.
And not only that, the fans, the coaches, that the team, they see that the energy. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, he think he's the shit now because you didn't hit 3 home runs in the game. Well, we had a dig me day in St. Louis to where if you were like the player of the game before, it's a dig me day. All we did was talk about you. Oh, look at you with your nice shirt on to kind of get you out of that mind
pedestal.
Exactly, kind of get your mind back on track to, hey, this is another day. Let's get to work.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. When you got going, growing up, things like that, who'd you look up to in the game of baseball?
Oh, in the game of baseball, my brother.
Okay.
My brother was in the backyard, man. I stayed off of DeVilla Street, which is right over around the way. We had a big backyard, and we would play baseball in the backyard with a tennis ball, and we drew a box on the tree.
Okay.
First base was an old Chevy that my mom had broke down in the backyard. We made second base with this big old hole we had in the back in the yard, and then it was a branch, for third base. You know what I mean? That if you ran too fast, you might get your head knocked out. You know what I mean? But my brother was like the biggest influence because again. My mom didn't want me to play football, so even with football, he taught me how to play and what to expect. He was slamming me on the ground. He's much older than me. Slamming me on the ground, teasing me, just kind of letting me see, hey, look, when you get on that field, it's going to be like this. So my brother was probably the biggest influence because he was very good in the sport. I was just left-handed, and I think people just like me being left-handed. But my brother, and probably my mother, my mother was a strong individual. She raised 8 kids, you know what I mean? So, and it was an interesting home for us. I have 4, she has a set of, 4 older and 4 younger. So my oldest sister, she's 49 years old now. And we never seen a lot of each other because she was in college and going on, so it was very interesting. So for her to kind of keep that, that house structured like she was, for us to still love each other, to want to be around each other, and for us to be away from each other so much. I thought that was very interesting from her because now that I've gotten older, it's like, how did you do that? And I asked her sometimes, how did you do that? And she just say it's a mother's, gift, I guess. So, but my mother and my brother, those are probably my 2 biggest influences.
Where do you think you'd be in life if baseball wasn't part of it?
Wow. I love music.
Yeah.
I grew up in a church. I was a drummer. I played flute in elementary school, but I like to sing too.
Okay.
So I was always around musicians. My mother, she sang. A lot of my cousins sing. I was just my sisters sing. So I was around it, and my mom always wanted us in the choir.
Okay.
But like I said, like we all know now, baseball and football kind of took over when I was young. But I was always involved in the church. So music is, and it's still something that my partner right now, I got him on my shirt. God rest his soul. He and I were always talking about music. He was an artist, you know what I mean? So we were always talking about music. So I really, and it's crazy because they always say athletes want to be musicians, and musicians want to be athletes. Right? So it's like, I kind of think that's for real because for me, I have 3 guitars, you know what I mean? So and piano, I always want to learn the piano, so I kind of tried to learn it. But music, man, I'd probably be like a R&B singer or something.
Okay.
Like that, man,
So, you talked about, you're writing a book right now,
Yeah.
which I'm excited
Yeah.
about. I'm excited to read that. And then, on your off time, you're a coach, you're a trainer for baseball players. How do you use the tools and tactics you learned in Major League Baseball to help grow and to help send these kids off in the right direction and let them have an outlet?
Another great question. It's like, first of all, I have to make sure I tell these parents, I'm not, your son or daughter are gonna be what they're gonna be anyway. I'm not comparing them to Mike Trout. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can't make no Mike Trout.
I don't think we can compare anyone to Mike
You know what
Trout.
I mean? It's like a lot of people expect that though. A lot of
Right.
people expect that, because
Their son's the greatest.
they training with a champion or they training with whoever that we can make them who they are. They're gonna make themselves. But it's crazy that you said, because now in my life, a little bit after my career, right? I'm having to remember all of these things that I use to get where I got. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because during the process, I never thought about the tools that I was using. So even writing this book right now is very interesting to me, because so many things come back in my mind of, oh, this is what I did to do this, and to do this,
And baseball nowadays is a lot different than when you were playing in 2011, around that span.
Exactly. So when I do talk to the younger athletes, I really, first of all, I kind of sit back and I evaluate, how I did it. You know what I mean? Because you have a lot of these coaches that say, do 1,000 push-ups, and they ain't never did 1,000 push-ups. You know what I mean? They ain't never sacrificed and did the things that they talk about. So what I love to do is obviously talk about how I did it, but I want to come from a place of like, I've been there. You know what I mean? I've done this before.
You sacrifice, you struggle.
I've sacrificed.
Right?
So
So it's
now
relatable.
it's coming from a inner place. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's coming from a personal place to where when I communicate this, we like making a connection with each other.
Right.
Not just on the field, which I can flip you the ball and you hit it, but now you're able to embrace me and say what you feel and say, what you thinking about. If I'm asking you to be balanced and you falling off, and I say, well, what do you feel when you falling off? You can explain to me instead of me not coming from this sincere place and saying, a lot of them, like what they like to say is, I don't know. I didn't ask you what you didn't know. I asked you what you felt. You know what I mean? So now we're able to come from a real, sincere place. Like I like to say that because, so many people want their kids to be Mike Trout.
Right.
They see him making $430 million. It don't work like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to still have a gift. You have to have a drive. You have to have dedication. You have to have
Work ethic.
loyalty, work ethic. You know what I mean? You got to have a good foundation. You know what I mean? Even LeBron James wasn't raised with a father, had a great mother. He still had men in his life that was helping him and pushing him. With me, I had wasn't raised with my father, but I had my brothers, I had my coaches. We still need that type of stability. So I use all of those little aspects. I tell the dad, don't leave, don't just drop them off, stay with me. So now when we work, when you go home,
You have something to talk about. You can coach them. That's
exactly.
absolutely.
Y'all can
100%.
communicate something. So I think that's really the most important thing when it comes to developing an athlete. Because I tell you right now, Mike Trout, he was probably doing that at a young age.
Yeah.
LeBron James was probably doing what he's doing right now at a young age. He just had people kind of help mold him into, what he is now. With the talking and insightful conversations. You know what I mean? But it wasn't. It's a part of the solution. Being able to develop an athlete is coming from a personal position. And I think that even with this, these questions that y'all asking me, these are things that I feel like y'all really want to go in depth with, and coming from a personal state of really trying to get this information and not just asking. You can ask any kind of question, but it's coming from a real personal type, situation.
Absolutely.
And I can get like that. You know what I mean? I know for me as an athlete, shit, You know, I done so much crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
I really like to cause people kind of look at, when I go around the community, dog, or even St. Louis, when it comes to Major League Baseball, they kind of put us on this pedestal and they expect us to do these type of things. And for a while, shit, I didn't care. I was clubbing, partying, I didn't care. And now I'm starting to see the impact that I have, or the influence that I can, you know, that I bring to the table. So I want to pay attention to the things that I do. I want to pay attention to the things that I say. So it's making me have to, you know, again, check myself. Where were you at when this kind of situation happened? What would you do? What did you do then, and what would you do right now? So I still have these type of, you know, tests that I do for myself too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now as we kind of wrap up here, a few questions left. What would
I think I have 15 questions.
what's one thing that you would tell your younger self? One piece of advice as you're coming up in the minors.
You see how I went back on that.
Yeah, right.
Man. Like the biggest thing I would tell myself, really, man, is be patient. You know what I mean? Patience, man. Like as you grow older in the game, they love to say, slow the game down.
Mm-hmm.
Slow the game down. And as y'all probably know this too, you know, life. You know, you try to speed that shit up, man. You will hit some, and it's all right. You're gonna have bumps.
Yeah.
But you will hit walls that you just
You're gonna get run over.
Right. I probably didn't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously, you know, people always say it's a learning, which I believe that. You know, it's not it's no kind of wrong answer. You know what I mean? You're gonna learn from all of this stuff anyway. But you know, slowing down and taking your time and really giving your all in whatever you're doing. You know, I tell my nephews this right now. I have nephews that, you know, obviously they see me play. So they play football, they play basketball, they play baseball. And, you know, they want to be me, you know what I mean? I want to be a Major League ball player. I want to do this. And I could easily be like, yeah, nephew, you can do that, you know? And I do, you know what I mean? Obviously. But I also tell them, you know, when I was, you know, playing in high school, I wasn't thinking about NFL, you know what I mean? I wanted to be the best player on the field, you know what I mean, or my team or on that league. I want to focus on this right here. So, yeah, man, it's patience is a virtue, man. Like I would tell myself to, or suggest that, hey, man, take your time, you know, enjoy the 4th grade, you know what I mean? Enjoy your high school days. All of my high school friends, when we talk, they always say, I miss my high, you know what I'm saying? I miss high school, you know what I mean? I'm like, shit, fuck high school, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel them, because it's like, I do miss high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do appreciate that time we had, and I wish I would have kind of, you know, stuck with that. You know, I had some wonderful relationships that kind of got away from us, you know, as the years went by.
Right.
You know, I wish I could have, you know, kept those relationships.
What was your favorite park to play in?
Wrigley, man.
I can see that.
Yeah, and it was just the history. It's an ugly park, you know what I mean? They redid it. You know what I mean?
Coming from a true St. Louis Cardinal.
Man, check.
Right.
You go to Milwaukee. You know what I mean? That stadium is in crazy. You know, even in Houston. You know, with the domes and all that kind of stuff. But it's just that the fan base. You know, in Wrigley, and knowing that, you know, Hank Aaron. You know what I mean? Willie Mays, Babe Ruth. You know, all these guys. You know, played on that field like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even in
You
Boston.
say it like that.
Listen,
Kind of chills.
yeah, man,
Yes.
it's crazy because, you know, as a player, you know, you go to the game. I've been to the field, right? But being in the dugout, being on the field, you know, seeing them vines out there, and, you know what I mean? And the outfit's like, wow, you know, I'm really a part of some real rich history. Like, baseball is America's past. Baseball is America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can say that I'm a part of that family. You know what I mean? Like, it brought chills to my body too. When I first went in there, you know, I think my first at bat or something, I got a hit. You know what I mean? Playing in the outfield, it was very surreal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
Like I was in the twilight or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And before we sign off, the other day in the gym, we were talking a little bit about what you're wanting to bring to the Blue Wahoo Stadium, or what you are bringing. How about you give the listener a little insight on what you're doing?
Hey, I really appreciate that, man. So next February, you know, we all know Black History Month, right?
Mhm.
So, which, you know, Black History is American history.
Yeah.
Well, they assigned me, they wanted me to be the president over, you know, our group. It's called the game will be the first city baseball classic for HBCU baseball teams. So,
Okay.
for, I want to say it's FAMU, Grambling, Alabama State, Jackson State. Don't quote me on that yet, you know what I mean? I want to say those are the 4 teams that will be there. But what we're bringing, and I'm finna throw a lot in here right here. What we're bringing, not only with the baseball, it'll be 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll have a nice dinner. We want to have a nice dinner before so we can meet people, but you've been seeing the crime and the shit that's going around in our community, dog. Like, my partner he's a part of that stuff. And it's like, again, with that influence that I have, you know, we got guys like Fred Roberts with me, Reggie Evans with me, Trent Richardson. I raised Trent Richardson, that's my little dog right there. But it's like, you know, I want people to see or to understand that everybody ain't gonna play Major League Ball. Everybody ain't gonna. So that don't mean that we can't include you in what we have going on.
Right.
So we're gonna take the Wahoo Stadium. We're gonna put some baseball players on that field. But outside of that field, we're gonna have the arts. We're gonna have music. We're gonna have outreach. We're gonna have an opportunity for people of all ages to be able to connect back with the community. At the end of the day, I want a community fairground.
Yeah.
And we're gonna use the Wahoo Stadium, which is downtown, a developing part of Pensacola, all of that stuff down there. They are giving us full access to this venue, to this beautiful park down there. And I want to utilize that. You know what I mean? Like you were talking about with the podcast. You know, I want you guys to come down there and be able to talk about, you know what I mean, these type of issues, you know what I mean, that's going on, you know what I mean? And having guys like myself and other athletes and other artists to come in and express themselves, to let people know, to let the youth know that there are other alternatives. You know what I mean? There are things that you can do. You know what I mean? And you know, I can go on and on about this.
It's not professional sports or both.
Yeah, man.
Right? Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you know, they didn't took this whole being a professional athlete. To me, my mother was a teacher.
Yeah.
You know, they the ones that should be getting paid. You know what I mean? The people that's raising us to be who we are becoming.
Absolutely.
But they don't get that type of recognition.
Yeah.
And because of, you know, the athlete being put on this pedestal, and you got my nephew that ain't never played sports before and probably ain't gonna never, he kind of feel like he ain't worthy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't play sports. Because I ain't cool with the cool kid that's the quarterback.
Yeah.
I want to be able to bring something that when a young man comes in, and not only he gonna want to see the game, because the game is gonna be fun, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But when you see a musician back here, when you see a lawyer, you know, Aaron Watson, you know what I mean? When you see these other people that's in our community that's doing great things that also are developing it ain't just the ball players.
Right. They're not
that
athletes.
It ain't us that's doing what we're doing in this only. Don't give me Bubba Watson doing great things. Josh Sutton, they're doing great things. But it's the people, the teachers, it's the workers, the people that's really in the community that's really changing this place. I need them to be recognized too. So I want to be able to set up a place to where every area, other areas, actually, I can't say area because we can't put every job down there, but many areas that aren't being recognized, bring them down there so these young men and women can see that, man, because I'm telling y'all, I don't like to speak things into existence, but we need it. You know what I mean? We need it in this community because, you know, everybody ain't having the opportunity to do what we doing right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I come from a place in Pensacola where we didn't have a lot. You know what I mean? My mom, like I said, had a lot of kids, so we were eating off the dollar menu for a long, long time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you know, if I can get a young man to be able to see that, dang, you know, I want to take this music to the next level. Maybe he become, you know, Jay-Z,
right.
you know, and he's able to come back and
do the same thing
Oh,
for generations to come.
Exactly, you know what I mean? He's able to rebuild his neighborhood, like Jay-Z say.
Right.
You know what I mean? I took my neighborhood and I made a neighborhood.
Yeah.
We want to develop people that can do that and make it inclusive. You know what I mean? Like we can bring this thing together if we want to.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
You heard it here, February 2021.
21.
Awesome.
Sweet.
We got a year to put this thing on, so
Yeah.
you're gonna be seeing it real soon.
Cool.
Well, AD, really appreciate you joining
Yeah,
us this morning, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
that, man.
Yeah.
Thank y'all, everybody, man. That's a part of this great thing behind the grind, man. That's what it is. A lot of people don't see it, but what goes on
Not yet.
behind the grind,
Yeah.
you know
That's
what
what it's
I mean?
about.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
It ain't always about what you see on TV. It's what's happening behind the grind. So I appreciate y'all.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.